Hello everyone, it's Teferi07. Today we are playing as per Reanimator. I have posted this list last week, soon after the OTJ release on Twitter, and immediately it got good results over the weekend in the modern challenges, top 16th. It got good results in the MTGO leagues, and I saw the first data since the OTJ, and it's already represented in the meta game, and people seem to like this archetype. In my tweet I said that these two subtleties are Marsh Flats slots, so I saw people try different stuff in these slots, but subtlety also is very fine inclusion with Satoru and Ephemerate, not dead after all. So definitely if you trim on subtlety, then not dead after all, the second one also becomes a flex slot, so definitely something to consider. Some slots where you can add or remove other cards, and there are other possible inclusions in the sideboard that cards I've been thinking about. Mostly are Requisition Raid and Pest Control. These two cards have been very good for me in other builds, so definitely considering adding Requisition Raids in the Teferi time level slot or Thoughtseize slot, or just trimming one ending from the side, one subtlety, stuff like that. There are some options where you can slot these cards very easily, and I think Requisition Raid and Pest Control are the two most desirable cards, except for those I have already here. Okay, so I played the league with this exact sideboard, so I'm going to go with this, but definitely these two cards are cards I'm considering adding to the sideboard, especially since the prowess is getting more and more popular. I think I would go with Pest Control instead of Teferis probably, and then I could maybe see one or two Requisition Raids where you can just trim one ending, one subtlety, or you can trim something else, whatever, but that is the point. Okay, so let's say that this is probably my list at the moment, so you don't get confused. Okay, but that is it. So Satoru is a great addition to the builds like this one. It's kind of incentivizing you to play the Persist, and then we switch to the Archon instead of a regular Goryo Sting. And Persist also works well with Grief, Solitude, Troll of Khazad-dûm. So definitely deck has plan A, plan B and plan C, but going for Archon is mostly something you are interested in to win the game and seal the game. Okay, so that is it. I'm very limited with time, and we are going to go through the gameplay as soon as I can. Okay, so let's start with match 1. Okay, I only played one league, but deck felt very good. I played a couple of similar builds, not this exact one, but I'm very convinced the deck was good. So I posted that way on the Twitter, and I think I was definitely right there. Okay, so I go for the survey land here. I have 2 Persist, so I can definitely afford to go turn 2, Persist the Grief, take their other card from hand, and other card was Summoner's Pact. Okay, so opponent goes for Construct Token, and I can now go for the Persist, take their Summoner's Pact or whatever else they have. So they're just lands at this point, but Amulet of Figure, 2 Amulet of Figures on the field means basically whatever they draw, they can play it, and it will become a big threat very soon. Okay, but I'm in the game. I have a Tainted Indulgence. If I get to Scion or something, Prismatic Ending soon, I can definitely take over this game. Okay, so opponent now goes for Celestial Sanctuary. They have a 5 mana and nothing else, so 3 lands in their hand at this point. I go for a Tainted Indulgence again, and now I can Persist the Troll to try to get better clock. Okay, so now opponent has 6 mana. They can play. They don't have it. So they just play Valakut, pass the turn. I now also have Subtlety, which is great for my clocks because I'm going for the 7 damage here, and I potentially have lethal with my Subtlety next turn if I can get something like removal. But opponent here attacks with Construct, which is pretty good for my chances, and I go Subtlety end of turn, and I present lethal attackers. So Subtlety was very relevant in the Amulet matchup, and Amulet is the best deck, the most oppressive deck in the format right now. That's why I like having 2 Subtleties in the main, at least 1 in the side, but also probably like 2 is optimal. And here it is, I go for the Subtlety, I have lethal, and that is the game. Let's check out game 2. Okay, so let's check out the sideboarding plan. Trimmed 1 Satoru, trimmed a couple of mendings. So what you often do with this deck, what you often do with the sideboard, you trim 1 Persist, 1 Archon, and 2 Faithful Mendings. These are like 4 cards that I trim most often. When I'm expecting heavy graveyard hate, my opponent has Endurance, they have Bojuka Bog, they also probably have other ways to hate on the graveyard. So this is often true. Post boards, they will pack a lot of graveyard hate, so you maybe want to trim 1 Archon, 1 Persist. Also, Faithful Mendings always provide, I think, having 6 of these discard outlets post board is enough. So here I had a pretty good hand. I was pretty happy with this hand, but it is kind of slow, so I needed to deal with a lot. But it's a really powerful hand, like 3 Subtleties, 2 Subtleties, Solitude plus Ephemerate. This can go really well for me. Okay, so here I go for my Subtlety, so I can also start attacking my opponent. But opponent has Dismember for first Subtlety, so that is okay. Now I can just go Solitude, their Endurance, start gaining back my life, and yeah, okay, so have a bunch of very usable cards here. Okay, so now my opponent has Primeval Titan. That is a big problem. I do have Subtlety here, and I do have Ephemerate for next turn, which means they're probably going to draw Titan for the next 2 turns, but I need something else, and here I draw it again. I find another Ephemerate, which was great. So I was able to Ephemerate the Subtlety again, now attacking 4/6, and I basically know that they will go for Titan again. So yeah, I can just Ephemerate again, and I even got another Subtlety, which is just brutal here. Okay, so I go for it. I'm attacking for 9, and then they end up on 1 life. So even if they play Titan, they probably can't do much. And here it is, another Solitude. Really disgusting hand here. Nothing my opponent can do about it. It started slow, but it turned out to be pretty brutal, and this is why I like 4 Subtleties post board. This Titan is just such a powerful card at the moment. Okay, here we go. Opponent tries to Valakut my Subtlety, try to survive, but I have a Solitude in response, and that is the game and the match. Okay, so let's check out match 2. Having a good Titan matchup, I think it's really important in the metagame right now. Okay, so here I keep 1 lander, but of course with 2 trolls, so that is very different. Okay, I can go like turn 1 find a land, turn 2 Indulgence, graveyard the Archon, try to find Persist, of course. Persist mostly wins me a game against these DRC decks. Okay, here I go, passing the turn, keeping Mending and Indulgence, whatever. So I also have Solitude, Ephemerate. Seems like a very good position. And opponent goes for the Seek the Beast, and I have a chance now to go for the Indulgence. But since they're played the Questing Druid, it mostly means they don't have counterspells in the main, they're probably just prowess. So I'm happy with just letting them attack me and draw 2 cards, put Archon in the yard. So that is enough for now, and I can go. And yeah, here I misclick. It was terrible misclick. I clicked accidentally on Troll instead of Archon, and now I wasn't able to persist the Archon. It was like extremely annoying. But despite that, I was still able to win this one. So I think it is interesting to watch, because yeah, here we see a Satoru shine. Even with the misclick, Satoru does a great job here. Also, just my hand was just so brutal here, and I tried to ephemerate. But opponent has a lava dart. They have to sack their land to do it, but it's fine. And yeah, opponent bolts the Satoru, passes the turn, and now I have Mending into Persist. Finally I discard the Archon and go for the Archon, to Persist Archon and kill the DRC, discard their card, gain 3 life. It's yeah, I could have done this like turn before with Ephemerate in hand, it would be over then, but due to the misclick, opponent got back into the game, so they were able to kill the Archon, replay their DRC, and yeah, so I surveil card first, then go for the Ephemerate, draw card from Satoru, draw Ending, and my opponent is now 0 cards in hand, and not a big graveyard, so there is not much they can do here. I go for Ephemerate, of course, again to draw another one, and despite the misclick, despite everything, I'm still in a too big advantage here, and I play my Tainted Indulgence. I can go for another Surveil and just leave and just play Troll next turn to get a better clock. Also I left Grief on top, so my opponent, I can see what's in my opponent's hand, and I go for the Grief first, I take their Preordain, continue attacking, and opponent decides that is enough for them and they concede, so let's check out game 2. Okay, so I have Mending and I have Persist, so this is pretty strong strategy in the game 1. Can be not good enough in the game 3, but of course sometimes it will work. Okay, here I go. I have Prismatic Ending here to kill their creature. That's pretty important, and I decided to remove the Subtleties in this matchup, remove the Thoughtseize, trim on 2 Satoru and 1 Not Dead After All to bring in some hate. If I had like I think Pest Control would be great for the matchups like this one. Okay, here I go, holding on to the Mending for end of their turn. Okay, so I go for the Mending, discard the Archons, and I have multiple options, but it's best to just try to go for the Archon probably here. Opponent has, of course, Graveyard Hate, a post board, so I'm now depending on my Faithful Mendings, don't have much else. And the opponent finds a third Swift Spear plus Iteration, so very powerful turn for them, plus Lava Dart and Flashback Lava Dart. This is a lot of damage and they find lethal, so very strong turn, and I wasn't able to do much there. they had a good clock and graveyard hate, so let's check out game 3. Pest Control, definitely I think a card that would help this matchup post board. Okay, but yeah. They don't have too much of the graveyard hate, so it should be, I think, decent matchup for a Reanimator. Okay, so I have Indulgence, I have Persist, I also have like Solitude, so I'm able to deal with their early threats. And they go for Channeler, so even if I don't find Archon, I can just persist the Solitude, which is also pretty good. But I do find the Archon here, and I go for the Persist. They don't have green mana open for Turn the Earth, but they do have a Spell Pierce. So I did not find a third land, so I was not able to go for the Prismatic Ending. But I wanted to try to go for Satoru next turn, then Solitude. I find third land that's pretty good. I put Swamp into the yard, I go for the Satoru, and now what I want to do here is just definitely Solitude, but opponent kills my Satoru in response, that is fine. They go for Dart 2 to try to dig for something they need from the top. But the main thing for me here is that I get rid of one of the Dragon Ray channelers, so that's totally fine. And unfortunately opponent has another Spell Pierce, so again I'm not able to persist the Archon. But looking good, opponent only a single card in hand, and I have Indulgence and Solitude, so opponent now goes for Giganta. They have mana to play it. I have Solitude Ephemerate if needed. Opponent decides not to go for Giganta, which is a bit weird. But okay, so I go for Indulgence again, find that land, and now I can hardcast the Solitude. If I draw another land, I also have Ephemerate backup. Okay, so here now my opponent decides to go for Giganta, so probably meaning they have another Spell Pierce in hand or something like that. Okay, so finding a Hallowed Fountain, and now going for the Satoru Solitude hardcast, just exile the Giganta, and if I untap with Solitude and 2 Ephemerates, it's basically game over. There's just no chance for them to recover from this. Okay, now I'm attacking with Solitude, gaining life. This is a really strong situation. I discard Leyline, discard the Archon, keep the Troll. Troll is here, Troll is castable card here, so... Okay, opponent now has a Swiss Spear. I'm not concerned with this. I decide to Ephemerate anyway, since I have 2 of those, and yeah. Opponent in response goes for a double Lava Dart, sacking 2 lands, and I go for another Ephemerate. And they succeed in killing my Solitude, but that's like totally fine. I have a Troll I can hardcast. A Troll really blocks opponent well, and I discard their Turn the Earth. They still have flashback, but next turn I can hardcast Troll of Khazad-dûm, and they have 0 cards in hand, so my situation is pretty good. Of course they have a channeler, so I have to deal with this still, but I do have Mending in the yard to gain some life if needed. I'm also pretty close to hardcasting the Archon, so I just gain some life and try to hardcast the Archon, but unfortunately I already discarded the Swamp, and this means I don't have 8 mana in my deck to actually hardcast the Archon, so I was not able to do it. Okay, opponent attacks with everything. I ephemerate the troll to block one of the 6 spears. So they go through for the 6 damage, and now I'm on 2 turn clock with troll. Opponent has nothing in hand. They can't block the troll next turn, so they need bolt effect to survive here, and they didn't get it, so that was game over. And the match, so let's check out match 3. Okay, in the match 3 I have Indulgence and Persist. I'm playing first, so often these kind of hands can be very strong, but my opponent decides to take my Indulgence, and I go for Surveil on turn 1. I could go like Troll and then just Persist the Troll on turn 2, but I think I'd rather just try to find Tainted Indulgence or Mending to discard my Archon. Okay, opponent plays another Watery Grave, and they play Satoru. Yeah, playing Satoru means they probably on Dimir Scum, which means they have Greaves, they have Subtleties, and here it is, the Indulgence I was looking for. And I also find another Persist, which is great news. So I can go Persist plus Ephemerate. If I succeed to resolve this, it's game over. My opponent taps out for the Cryptic Code, draws a card with Satoru, attacks, and yeah. And now it's Persist time, but opponent has a Force of Negation. So still not winning this turn. Opponent now goes for another Cryptic Code, drawing another card with Satoru, attacks for 5 damage, putting me on 11, and here I go again, and this time I resolve it. Opponent goes for not dead after all, so I can just Ephemerate in response. A great situation, gaining 6 life, making them discard 2 cards, sacking 2 creatures. Pretty bad situation for the opponent. They get Satoru back, but that's not enough. I go for a Grief just to discard their last card in hand. It was Tidebinder. That was a good discard because they would make my Archon with no abilities survive a turn there maybe, but I have too much of stuff right now, and I have even another Persist here, so that is game over. Opponent concedes. Let's check out game 2. Okay, let's check out the sideboarding plan. Okay, so this was my first league with the deck, and I was still experimenting with the sideboard. I think I'm not sure what exactly was their list, but I expected them being on probably 4 not dead after alls, and that was the reason why I brought in the Leyline of the Void. But after the gameplay, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be interested in doing that again. So I don't think Leyline of the Voids are necessary, so I'm going to show the sideboard in the next game, in the third game. So here I was able to grief them on turn 1. These were the cards in their hand. I took Drowning Log, leaving them with Not Dead After All and Subtlety, then go for another Ephemerate, taking Subtlety, and basically leaving them with only 1 Not Dead After All in their hand. And they draw Verdant Catacombs for a turn, so I definitely want to use Grief ability again, discard a Not Dead After All, and then so even though I discarded everything they have, it's still kind of a weird situation for me. They have Cryptic Code doing a lot of value right now, drawing them card with Satoru, making them more tokens. It's a big problem for me. They play their last known card in hand, the Swamp, and the Cryptic Code, drawing 2 cards in the meantime, so yeah. Now I find Solitude, and to take their Satoru, but I'm too low on life and they can just spam this cryptic code a lot, and the Leyline of the Void was pretty useless, and I got a lot of life here to try to get back into the game, but in response opponent actually did Orcish Bowmaster below the manifest card, so they were able to turn it up, deal 2 damage to me, make the Orc Army token, and yeah, okay, so this they were just able to continue spamming the cryptic code, making more tokens, and I don't have much ways of dealing with this, so that was a game over, and let's check out game 3. Okay, game 3 is pretty good. Lot of good stuff. I can go Surveil on turn 1, that is always a decent turn 1, and I find a Grief on top, that is great news. So I play the Marsh Flats. I have a choice here, I must choose between exiling Troll or Satoru. I decide to exile Satoru, and opponent has Subtlety here. So I put this I have Grief on top, so I put this other Grief on the bottom to trick them and leave the other Grief on top. Okay, so I still have Grief Scam next turn. Opponent goes for a land and Survey land, putting Tidebinder in the yard, and now I go for the Grief Scam again, taking Cryptic Code, leaving them with Grief and Satoru in hand. Now opponent obviously plays the Satoru. I can now Ephemerate again, discard the Grief, leaving them with the Force of Negation. They have Satoru, but they don't have that much ways to use it. Only maybe 2-3 Cryptic Codes, some Essence Fluxes, but that is probably it. Okay, I start attacking with Grief, trying to find the 4th land. Opponent attacks with Satoru, I find Satoru on my own, so it is an interesting race. Opponent here drowns in Loch my Satoru, so race continues. They have 3 lands and the Force of Negation, I have 3 lands and the Subtlety, so it's pretty close. And yeah, Tainted Indulgence, pretty good card here. Okay, when opponent fetches, I decide to use the Tainted Indulgence, and they don't use the Force, so I got the Ephemerate, so they used Pitchcast Force on my Ephemerate. So that was pretty good turn for me. They again now in the both players basically in the top deck mode. I'm waiting for the 4th land, and they got the Bowmasters, so they were able to trade here, but decide not to do so. And now the Hearse. It's a kind of a difficult game. I can definitely draw some cards with Satoru here. I need the blue card or a white card or something playable, but instead I get Archon of Cruelty. So finally that 4th land is here. This Hearse is getting bigger and bigger, but my opponent plays a Thoughtseize here. So this means they're going down on 6, which means Subtlety is a 2-turn clock. And they decide not to attack with Hearse. I think that was... I mean, they have to stay back because I have Grief and the Subtlety, so if they're attacking with a Hearse, that could be... I could potentially have lethal, because with 1 removal I would be able to attack for 6. So now I'm tapping with Subtlety, 2 Griefs and Satoru. All of my creatures have Menace, and I can just easily chump the Hearse and win on the swing back. So that is game over. I won that one. Okay, so that were all the wins from this league, but I'm in a big hurry, and I think the deck already has plenty of good results since I posted it on Twitter, so I think this will be enough. I'm struggling to put out content for this week and the next one, but luckily being able to do something this week. Last week I was not able to post anything on YouTube, but okay, here I go and survey land, finding Tainted Indulgence on top. I have a way to discard Archon, I have a Persist. These cards are very powerful in game 1 and provide you with a bunch of free wins. Okay, I didn't want them to spell pierce my Tainted Indulgence, although this is prowess, so they probably don't play it. But they kept one lander, and I just persist the Archon, and for a turn 3 win, I even have a Ephemerate there. So that was very, very easy win in game 1. And I lost, I think both games I lost here were against prowess, but I'm not sure exactly, don't want to lie here, but I think I had problems against prowess, and I didn't have, but you can see like that Solitude Ephemerate can easily win against this deck, and also like early Persist on Archon in game 1 can also do this. But I did not have pest control in these games, and that was the biggest problem. Okay, so I go for the Tainted Indulgence here. Opponent now plays Swift Spear and also Slickshot Show Off. That is a lot of creatures. So I go for the Solitude, taking their Slickshot. Then trying to Ephemerate. If they kill my creature, I can still go for Persist on my turn, so I'm still decent. Opponent doesn't have Bolt, but they have Lava Dart, so they have to sack a land, doing a lot of damage in process. Unfortunately, Lava Dart was even better for them, and they got even a Preordain. So I was on 15 here, but opponent finds Preordain plus another bubble for a lot of damage there. So I'm now on 3 life, which is very risky, of course, for this matchup. And I go for the Persist, one of my Solitudes. Persist my Solitude, and problem is my opponent draws were just so good last turn that they almost forced me to have to jump a block here, but unfortunately I wasn't not forced to do so. But here my opponent has iteration into another iteration, drawing more cards they can use here, and yeah, I keep Ephemerate on top. But opponent also finds a lightning bolt to Ephemerate on top. Would be very good. I would be able to get on 4 life right now. If they play creature, I can just Ephemerate the Solitude. I would be in a good situation, but opponent finds everything they need right on time, so there's just nothing I could do about this. Okay, so in the game 3, I think I should definitely like mulligan this type of hand, but I decided to keep it. Let's see the sideboarding plan now. I decided to keep it because I have surveillance and they can come in pretty handy. And here I graveyard the land, get a useful card. get the Faithful Mending. It's Faithful Mending, pretty good draw for a hand like this one. So I play my Satoru, opponent has to kill it. It can provide a lot of value if they don't do so. So I'm decently positioned right now. So I can go for another survey land, graveyard my Archon of Cruelty, and now I'm just digging for Persist. They don't have green mana open, so basically if I draw the Persist, it's game over. I also can now hardcast the Grieve, hardcast the Solitude soon too, so pretty good situation. Okay, I discard one of the lands and go for Grief Scam. Ephemerate my Grief, take their Expressive Iteration, take their Slick Shot. Now they only have a Spell Pierce left. And they do have a Soul Scar and the Channeler, but I'm very well positioned until of course my opponent finds again iteration from the top. I just needed them to not draw anything relevant maybe for a turn, but here opponent finds a Lava Dart to deal a lot of damage there, do a lot of surveilling and kill my Grief before I can ephemerate it. Okay, so I still have Solitude and I gain some life with the Mending. I find a land, which means next turn I can go for Solitude. Let's see the sideboarding plan for this matchup. I took out Subtleties. I took out Satorus to bring in some graveyard hate in Leylines. Of course, they play Breach, so that card is very good against them. Okay, here I go for, yeah, I should have probably done this on my turn. This way I would get one less damage there. And my opponent goes for the Breach, which is really good card for them right now. So they're able to breach for a bubble bunch of times. This means I have to find a Persist or I'm done, because they're going to draw a lot of cards and they attack me for 7, putting me on 2 life here. That is fine if I find a Persist, of course. I have 3 draws to do so, and I did not find it. I still can just flashback the Mending, gain more life and try to survive next turn, but the opponent has too much cards in their hand, so that is the match. Okay, so I'm going to finish with this match for this video. Hoping to be able to get more content this week, but for the next 2 weeks I'm in don't have too much time for dealing with content, but I think Requisition Raid is a good sideboard option to deal with the Blood Moon, to deal with the Leyline Scion combo. Also, if you spree, you can put counters on your creatures, making them bigger threats, getting a better clock. So it's a very useful card, and I think since Proves is going to be a relevant player in the metagame, 2 pest controls on the sideboard is the way to go. If you compare it to the list I posted on Twitter last week, but that is basically the only change I would do. I really like everything else, and that is it. Okay, so thank you for watching. Hope you like the gameplay, hope you like the video, and that's it for today, and goodbye.